Okay guys, welcome back to the channel. Hard to beat what I've been releasing recently, which has been U2 at the Sphere. Just a super memorable moment. I mean, we talk about audiophile gear a lot on this channel, and that's our hobby, getting in the weeds there and, you know, lusting after gear. But all it's for is for ultimately enjoying performing artists that we love and being able to see them live in a venue like the Sphere. That's the ultimate sound system and experience of music. And so that's why it's important and why I like to showcase that whenever possible. And I go to these concerts. That's why I spend the money. Yeah, I spend money on gear, but I also spend money on the concert. And it's going to piggyback into a topic today because I'm going to get back to my audiophile roots today, although I will have a video on the hollow plot sound, the wave field synthesis technology in the Sphere with Edgar. I'm doing a scheduled Zoom with him, but that's going to come a little bit further down the road. So stay tuned for that if you're interested in the Sphere sound system and the technology. But what I wanted to do today is showcase a system that's the $1 million Acapella Sphaerons. I featured them in the past, but I went to see Rick Brown last week, who you saw in my video before I went to Vegas. His amazing system. That same weekend I visited him, we went to go see one of his client systems, which is the Jim, who has that Acapella Sphaeron, $1 million horn speakers, plus all those amazing electronics, similar to what you saw in Rick's house. Amazing system. And I featured it before, like I said, but I went back and they had made some changes, so I filmed that, and I have both a walkthrough and some music clips. Now, music clips are going to be in a separate video because YouTube, you know, poo-poos anything with music clips, so I have to put them in a separate video. If you want to go straight to the walkthrough of the $1 million Acapella Sphaeron system, I'll put a chapter. That's the goal of this video, to get back to showcasing you eye candy and cool gear that nobody else features. But I also wanted to talk to you real quick about a macro takeaway, because the last time I featured his system, just my YouTube short hit like something like 80,000 or something views. And when you get that many people viewing it, you get a lot of haters. People that say, oh, it's a waste of money. Why are you spending that money on that? And for whatever reason, this hobby is a little bit different than high-end cars, watches, other things where you don't get as many haters. So I want to address the nuances, though, and the takeaways that I've learned over the years. Yes, there are some people that just buy stuff for bragging rights, and they tell you immediately how much it costs, and usually they don't even pay what they're saying their system is worth, and they're bragging. It's just for bragging rights. Now, do they deserve some criticism? I understand it, yes, but I don't think, and I'll get to them in a second, I don't think they deserve as much criticism as they get. But again, I'll deal with that in a second. What I wanted to differentiate, though, is Jim, who owns these Acapella Sphaerons, is not one of these bragging rights guys. You've never seen his system probably on any YouTube channel. He doesn't go braggadocious. Now, he invites people, very gracious with his home and inviting people over. But this is one of those audiophiles that impress me on metrics that I don't often disclose. You know, if you want to impress me, you know, it doesn't have to do with fancy gear. You know, if you've got a, you know, fancy Ethernet switch and fuses that are directional, that's probably not going to impress me nearly as much as somebody like Jim, who has the $1 million Acapella Sphaerons, and those are nice. But what impresses me the most about Jim, and it piggybacks into my YouTube videos as well, he's about the music. You know, he's not one of these audiophiles. I think Neil Young captioned the phrase, audiophiles just buy music to listen to equipment. And then there's other audiophiles that are all about the music. That's one of the things that I look for. If I know an audiophile and I know what music they like, that elevates them far more than what fancy fuse or Ethernet switch or even cables they use. Oh, by the way, going to have a video on new cable. These are my prior speaker cables I was using. I got some new speaker cables to try, so FYI coming down the pipe. But what's going to impress me more is if I know you're about the music. If you have a favorite band, like Doug, well, his favorite band is Fish. Now, I don't like Fish at all. I couldn't stand seeing the concert. But the fact that he's passionate about it, we'll go see them night after night, fly all the way to Denver to go see them. That to me speaks more to my definition of an audiophile and what I know. They will value certain things in their system more than the ones that live on the forums, wonder about the directionality of a fuse and get neurotic about stuff that doesn't even matter in the grand scheme of things, and spend all this money on gear, but don't spend money on seeing live music or going to see their favorite band, and you don't even know what their favorite band is. If you listen to what they play, it's usually Fink, Keith Don't Go, Tin Pan Alley. Those are the nuances that I look for. And Jim's one of these people that, yes, I'm not a big classical music fan, but he's classical, Beethoven. That's the first thing that comes to my mind when I think of Jim. It's not the $1 million Acapella Sphaeron system. And he built a system and a room and had the professional like Rick to help him with this, and Steve McCormick and David Berning and others, to create a room and a system that was designed to give him that scale of a live orchestra, like he's going to the concerts, because he goes to many orchestras and attends live music. He's not one that buys this stuff for bragging rights. He uses that $1 million Acapella Sphaeron all the time. He goes to see live music, and that's the nuances that I look for from just bragging rights guys. But getting to the bragging rights guys, look, whatever makes people happy, it's their money. It's not worth trolling them and hating on them. It's, they're proud of their gear. They're proud of what they've earned. They're proud of what they have. We all do that in our own life, whether it's clothes, your house, your car. If somebody put a video on your life and saw everything that you purchased, a lot of these people are purchasing stuff that's a lower percentage of their income than maybe even your system. Yeah, it might be $1 million, but it's probably a lower percentage of their net wealth than yours. So you have to look at it relatively. I mean, it's great if we were all Buddhist monks giving all of our wealth away and feeding the poor and homeless, but you got to be prepared to use that same lens on you and everything that you've bought. Do you buy everything according to super rational or charity purposes? It's not really fair to apply that lens to certain people, even if they're obnoxious about it, if you can't apply that same lens to yourself. So just be careful about, understanding those nuances that I wanted to give you this quick takeaway on. But without further ado, let's get to seeing Jim's amazing system, rooms, and updates. Also, he has a second room as well that's going to be in here. Almost a mini version of his main room. It's the smaller Acapella Sphaerons in his pool room. He used to have like 6 or 7 systems, I think Rick told me, but he's consolidated down to these 2. Gets the enjoyment, the use that he wants, and the performance that he wants. And he's got some more updates coming that are amazing. I don't want to spoil it just yet because I don't know for sure when or if it's going to be done and how, but I'm going to save that for my 3rd trip, and I definitely plan on being out there again. So without further ado, enjoy, guys. Yeah, so Rick, why don't you give us a quick rundown for those that haven't watched the previous videos, some of the similar gear to what you have at your place, but all these might be in different, So let's real quick, the Dohmann.
Yeah, we can start off with the Dohmann Helix, turntable Helix 1 Mark II. We have 2 tone arms, and as you can see, one of them is using a Lyra Atlas Lambda version. The other one is a Lyra Etna. It's kind of the yin and the yang for us.
Yeah, great cartridges.
Wham Engineering set them both up. They both have his Zenith adaptation.
And he likes Lyra, and so
Yeah, I do too. I'm crazy about him, and so much so that
you've got this rare phono stage.
It's a very rare Lyra. 4-3
you and Jim are about the only ones I've ever seen.
Yeah, you got it. The Lyra 4-3 phono stage. Then we have the SMc Hi-Fi 1 version silver preamplifier, like I have in my system, with the power supply, external power supply there.
Beautiful.
And we're back again with the EmmLabs. In this case, it's not an SACD player, it's a total player, but it will play SACD. And we have their DAC-2.
DAC-2.
Yeah, and then of course we got the
Berning
amplifiers, which once again are the Hi-Fi 1 edition. The single-ended trio 20-watt output transformerless. They run 211 45 tubes, and then you have the silver chokes, the 45-pound silver chokes, which are wound by Ypsilon in Greece. They're the absolute masters at winding inductors. In my opinion, it's an art, and they've mastered it because I've gone everywhere else and proved that to myself. And then, of course,
Acapella Sphaerons.
We've got the Acapella Sphaerons
that are listed at over $1 million.
Yes,
Yes, 1,500 pounds.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sitting on custom-made Ultra 7s made by Paul Joaquin at Still Point for this application. And there's a lot of them underneath there.
And just an amazing room that requires a lot of setup nuancing to get the right amount of both reverb for the type of music Jim enjoys, but not too much. So seating position, everything has to be considered because you don't want to over-treat the room, but also for both aesthetic and sound quality purposes, because you know, this is part of what you have a room like this for.
That's right.
A little bit of reverb with my voice now gives that realism.
Yeah. Some of that happening,
And sometimes that's how you're going to listen, with the windows open. So yeah, you have a lot of variability with how you open the windows, how you place the seating. It's nothing that you can knee-jerk, decide just by looking. I can tell you it sounds phenomenal, though. I loved the positioning right here, the direct on axis, the scale. Yeah, it's kind of one of those once-in-a-lifetime opportunities to hear a speaker system that very hard to duplicate. Yeah, so while they're getting ready for the next album we're going to play, I'm going to just give you guys a little closer view of these speakers if you didn't see the prior video. They're just beautiful. And I mean, yes, $1 million is a lot of money, but this is over 1,500 pounds. Just imagine shipping and installing this. The two parts are connected really only by this plasma tweeter. Again, if you're not familiar with a plasma tweeter, it's basically massless. It's actually powered, a little flame there. About as good a tweeter as you can have. But anyway, getting these just set up and connected properly and moving them, 1,500 pounds. These are special still point made, custom made footers, needing multiple jacks, I think up to 5 jacks to jack this up and move it around. This is no small undertaking, but when you have a room like this and the budget and the desire to do something that costs no object and pinnacle of performance and scale, especially for the type of music that Jim prefers, the orchestra and Bach, this is about the holy grail of what you can achieve, especially when you pair it with this kind of electronics. A turntable beyond reproach. I love every time I hear the Dohmann turntable. It's just a common thread of it sounding great. The Berning amps are powering the whole thing.
Yes, the whole thing.
That's the amazing thing. These 20 watts are powering the entire thing. Yeah, so that's another thing about David Berning's designs. They are so atypical from a normal tube amp. And giving you guys a little bit of taste behind here. It's just like nothing else you'll see. And of course the sound, especially in a beautiful room like this, is like nothing else you've heard. It really gives you the scale and the realism of being at a concert. So back to listening. All right, Rick, let's get a rundown on the actual gear for people that didn't see this video last time. And there's been changes, obviously.
Right, there has been changes.
And so it's a fabulous system. It's the second system in his house, but this would be cost no object end game for most anybody in the world. But this is the pool room system in this amazing house. We just got finished listening to it. I'll put some clips up if you haven't already heard them. I'm not sure where I'm going to put the clips, but I want to run down the gear real quick if we could.
And so we start off with the Acapella Trilon speakers.
Yeah, beautiful.
And again, as you talked about earlier when we talked about the bigger ones, they look very similar. They're just scaled down, essentially.
Yeah.
You know,
Basically,
same plasma tweeter. And then when we move over to the electronics themselves, we have the same amplifiers in both rooms, which is the David Berning Hi-Fi 1 edition. These are single-ended triode, output transformerless, pure triode amplifiers that use 45-pound silver chokes that are wound by Ypsilon and grease that are those
the chokes, and then the ZOTL design by David Berning, and then monoblocks.
Yeah, and as you can see, all the products are being isolated on HRS racks.
Very
all
nice.
The cables in here are made by Dave Kleinbeck of Incline Cables, including all the cables that you can see connecting the back of the loudspeaker. So when you
is that right?
All these cables are custom from Dave Kleinbeck did those as well.
Interesting.
Yeah, and like we had in the other system, there's also a Nexus, as you can see that back here. Which is
the AC Nexus,
AC filters, which also is a grounding device at the same time. And then if we move forward, we have the Mark Dohmann turntable again,
Beautiful
the Helix,
turntable.
the Helix Mark II. Then we're using an Atlas cartridge and a Schroeder LT tone arm, carbon fiber body.
Schroeder, okay.
And we have the same benefits that we have in the table we talked about before with the -K platform and the plinth. And then we have the SMc Audio Preamplifier, which also has an outboard power supply, which is in the back. Which the one that has a carbon fiber top in the back is the power supply.
Yeah, the power supply alone is huge.
It is. It's a monster.
That's
it's full of things like dual and cast silver capacitors, and it has all those other benefits we talked about. All of those umbilicals are made by Dave Kleinbeck of Incline Cables as well. Not only is it the umbilicals for the amps, which are 4 boxes, but it's the umbilicals for things like the phono stage and the line stage, both from Incline. And then our digital is all Ed Meitner.
Yep.
And that happens to be one of the SACD transports that they make into
really
their
cool.
reference DAC. And we also use a Meitner streamer. And the bottom box happens to be the power supply, which is a switch mode, not an analog power supply for the Dohmann turntable.
That's a huge switch mode power supply.
It is a big boy. It is a big boy. And we've been fortunate enough that Mark Dohmann, the actual designer of the turntable, has been out here twice. So
is that right?
Mark
To dial it in.
Mark has set them up. Mark has dialed them in. And then JR has done all of the cartridge alignments, and he's made all of the Zenith shims to go in these. And these actually have his milled Zenith shims, which you can see in here is metal as opposed to the ones that he uses with additive manufacturing. And these are more rigid and they're more accurate.
And this is the model I believe Doug is getting, right?
Doug's is a little different than this one. This is the flagship one, and his is one level, small level.
Next level.
I do mean one small level down because it still has the -K platform. It has all the benefits. It just doesn't have it's not quite the same size.
Okay.
So there's a little cost cutting involved in terms of the actual chassis itself. But in terms of sound, there's some great reviews that have just come out, not only of this one, but of the same one that Doug has. They don't equivocate in those reviews. You should read them.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you got the -K and the thing, that's the key. And so we're going to be installing that with JR, replicating a lot of the same things at Doug's very soon.
And some of the things that you really can't see that are really very interesting in this beyond the -K is that these literally, you can see this is carbon fiber, but it's a constrained layer sandwich of carbon fiber and a number of other materials. So this is a very serious arm board, but they are connected to each other internally with what looks like very high strength bands. So there's more isolation going on of even the arm board in these turntables. So Mark Dohmann has made it look rather simple and elegant to my eyes.
Right.
But there's a tremendous amount of engineering going on.
It's cool looking, but not because they tried too hard to do something cool. Exactly. This is all form.
Exactly.
Purpose made. So yeah, that's really cool.
We talked about before, we like equipment that isn't gratuitously designed. You know, I mean, we want to see things that there's a form follows function and a reason for it. And I think all of these products represent that.
Exterior is beautiful, but what matters most is also what's inside.
That's exactly right.
And that's really what determines the performance.
That's exactly right.
The exterior almost never determines the performance. So, yeah, and that's what we're hearing tonight.
And as an example, go back to the amplifiers here, the ones with the Ypsilon external chokes in the 4-box arrangement. Part of what we're doing here, the ethos is not just form follows function, but that the tagline for my company, Hi-Fi One, is science in the service of music. And I mean that. That we're not trying to build jewelry. We're not trying to go after the carriage trade. We're trying to make products that bring some of the best minds in the industry together in a collaborative effort and come up with products that they can be proud of.
Right.
Not just things that they are making to a price point, but without a price point. But we're not trying to make them gratuitous.
It's about being true high end versus looking high end.
That's it. Thank you. Well said.
You know,
yeah,
so
I can't
that's
top that.
yeah, that's basically what you also often have to fight in this hobby is figuring out which ones are true high end versus
exactly
just looking high end. So yeah,
if we're brutally honest, this is a hobby that is predicated on dissatisfaction. Unfortunately, and there's all too many people that are willing to keep you dissatisfied and
keep you, yes.
And we unfortunately have a lot of charlatans in this industry, particularly in the cable business.
Yeah.
So a lot of my clients, I like to say to them, if Harry Houdini were alive today, he wouldn't waste his time on mediums. He's got cables.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's why I've done a deeper dive because there, you know, it's just. There are, like you say, a lot of problems with people churning through gear, keeping people dissatisfied, keeping people neurotic. And, you know, if you don't have the experience yourself, which often there's no experience, no substitute for experience, which took me 40 plus years and I'm still learning, you know, hire somebody like Rick to put a system together for you. Like I can say, first-hand impressions. You're not here, but I've been lucky to been out here now a couple times, and it just keeps getting better and better. But these are once-in-a-lifetime type systems to hear and see, and definitely own. So thanks to Jim for inviting me out here again, and great night.
And thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.